So remember when everyone said rent would never go down again. Like ever. Like gravity stopped working but only for landlords. It was the new law of physics: what goes up stays up, especially if it's a one-bedroom with gray vinyl floors and a fake marble countertop. You couldn't open social media without someone saying this is just supply and demand, as if they personally invented economics. Or the classic advice, just make more money. Oh, okay, let me just walk outside and grab some extra income off the income tree. Landlords were treated like immortal beings. Rent increases were framed as inevitable, unstoppable, permanent. And now here we are in 2026, driving past apartment buildings with banners that say 2 months free. Free parking. Free Wi-Fi. Move-in specials so aggressive you're half expecting a free air fryer and a handshake. I would not be surprised if someone offered a complimentary emotional support hamster with a 12-month lease. And no, this is not 2008 again. The sky is not falling. Banks are not collapsing every other Tuesday. But in certain cities across America, rent is quietly sliding. Not exploding. Not crashing nationwide. Not a Hollywood disaster scene with dramatic music and a slow-motion stock market ticker. Just slipping. Softly. Awkwardly. Like a drunk guy missing the last step on the stairs. And today we're talking about 10 US cities where rent is actually going down in 2026. Not everywhere. Not dramatically. But enough to matter. And before you pack your bags and start fantasizing about affordable living, we need to talk about why this is happening. Because when rent drops, it's usually not because a city suddenly became generous. It's because something shifted. And shifts are never random. For the last few years, Americans have been suffocating under rent pressure. Post-pandemic migration waves. Remote work freedom. Investor buying sprees. Everyone moving to the same hot cities like they were limited edition sneakers. Phoenix. Austin. Nashville. Tampa. If a city had sunshine, low taxes, and a podcast studio, it was flooded. Rent shot up 20 to 40% in some places. Some people saw 50% increases over a couple of years. One-bedroom apartments that used to be mildly annoying financially suddenly required a small personal sacrifice. People panicked. People overpaid. People signed leases they regret but don't talk about. And here's the part nobody likes admitting. Developers saw the frenzy and said, bet. Construction exploded in 2021 and 2022. Cranes everywhere. Luxury units with names like the Meridian at Something Heights. Every building had a gym with exactly 3 treadmills and a neon sign that said Rise. Fast forward to 2026. Those projects are finished. Thousands of new apartments hit the market at the same time. At the same time, remote work cooled. Some companies pulled employees back. Layoffs happened in waves. Migration slowed. Suddenly landlords weren't fighting tenants anymore. They were fighting each other. And when landlords start competing with other landlords, things get interesting. Outsiders still think rent only goes up. National headlines don't help. But real estate is hyper-local. And locally, in certain cities, the leverage shifted. The vibe changed. The pay whatever we ask energy is gone in pockets of the country. Now let's talk about where. Number 10, Austin, Texas. Ah yes. Austin. The former golden child. The tech bro Disneyland of the early 2020s. There was a time when Austin felt like the center of the universe if your universe included crypto conferences and cold brew on tap. Between 2020 and 2023, rents exploded. One-bedrooms that used to float around 1,100 or 1,200 started pushing 1,800. Then 2,000. And not even downtown. We're talking about neighborhoods that used to be considered up and coming. Suddenly they were just expensive. Then the building boom caught up. Thousands of new luxury units came online. Glass balconies. Rooftop pools. Dog spas because obviously. At the same time, tech hearings slowed. Some remote workers realized they didn't need to be in Austin if they weren't required to be in an office. And now, in parts of the city, rents are down maybe 5 to 10% from peak. Not a collapse, but a noticeable shift. And concessions are everywhere. Free months. Reduced deposits. Flexible lease terms. Lifestyle-wise, Austin is still fun. Live music. Food trucks. Sunshine. No state income tax. But here's the trade-off. Property taxes are high. Insurance costs are rising. Traffic is still chaotic. And wages outside the tech bubble haven't magically doubled. Austin didn't fail. It just overshot. It sprinted too hard. And now it's catching its breath. Would you move there if the rent dropped another 10%? Be honest. Number 9, Phoenix, Arizona. Phoenix was the pandemic darling. Cheap compared to California. Sunny year-round. Space. You could rent a decent one-bedroom for around $1,000 to $1,200 before things went wild. Then California moved in. Not all at once, but enough. Rents jumped to $1,700 or more in popular areas. Developers responded the only way developers know how. Cranes. Concrete. More cranes. Entire neighborhoods of new apartments. Fast forward to now. Supply has caught demand. Vacancy rates crept up. Landlords are offering free weeks, move-in bonuses, sometimes even gift cards. It's giving please sign this lease. Lifestyle-wise, Phoenix has warm winters. A growing job base. Endless suburban sprawl if that's your thing. But summers feel like you opened an oven and decided to live inside it. Insurance costs are rising too. Climate risk is not theoretical anymore. Rent is cooling. But Phoenix didn't collapse. It had a sugar rush. Now it's coming down. And honestly, that might be healthier. Number 8, Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville wanted to be the next Austin. And for a minute it was. Music City. Corporate relocations. Influencers discovering cowboy boots. Rents surged. What was $1,500 became $2,000. Then $2,200. Developers piled in. High-rise apartments near downtown. Mid-rise complexes spreading outward. Now, a wave of new apartments hit all at once. Some neighborhoods are showing mid-single-digit rent declines compared to peak pricing. You can feel the shift. Listings sit longer. Price cuts show up quietly. Concessions are hidden in the fine print. Lifestyle. Energetic. Creative. Southern but modern. But here's the tension. Wages for locals have not kept up with the surge. Tourism fatigue is real. And growth alone does not guarantee endless rent increases. Nashville is still growing. But rent cares about timing more than hype. Timing changed. Number 7, Boise, Idaho. Boise went viral. That's the best way to describe it. Small city. Outdoors. Low cost compared to coastal states. Californians arrived. Home prices doubled in a few years. Rents surged from under $1,000 to $1,600 and above. Then migration slowed. Some remote workers reconsidered smaller markets. The frenzy cooled. Now rents are sliding back a bit. Not dramatically, but enough to make recent arrivals a little uncomfortable. Boise lifestyle. Clean. Outdoorsy. Calm. You can actually see the mountains without driving 2 hours. Trade-off. Smaller job market. Limited cultural scene compared to bigger metros. Boise didn't implode. It had a moment. Now it's recalibrating. Number 6, Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City was quietly one of the fastest growing metros in the early 2020s. Young professionals. Tech-adjacent companies. Outdoor access that feels almost unfair. Developers built aggressively. New apartments everywhere. Now in 2026, rents are softening in parts of the metro. Some complexes are shaving a few hundred off peak pricing. Others are offering incentives instead of cutting headline rent. Which is the polite way of saying, we need tenants. The vibe here is interesting. Mountains. Skiing. Hiking. It's stunning. But air quality can be an issue at times. Nightlife is not exactly legendary. And the housing boom made affordability tense. Rent easing here feels less like drama. More like normalization. Which honestly might be the healthiest outcome on this list. Number 5, Las Vegas, Nevada. Vegas is dramatic. Even its housing market performs. After 2020, rents jumped hard. From roughly $1,100 to $1,700 or more in certain areas. Migration from California. Investor activity. Speculation. Then slower migration. New units delivered. And now rents are drifting downward in parts of the metro. Lifestyle. No state income tax. Entertainment capital of the country. If you get bored in Vegas, that's on you. But the economy is heavily tied to tourism. Job cycles can be volatile. Summers are brutal. And housing markets tied to boom and bust industries rarely move in straight lines. Vegas rent cooling is not shocking. It's cyclical. Always has been. Number 4, Denver, Colorado. Denver had its run. Outdoors lifestyle. Tech presence. Mountain proximity. One-bedroom apartments in desirable neighborhoods were pushing north of 2,000 at peak. Now, supply expansion plus slower migration cooled things off. In 2026, some neighborhoods are showing rent drops compared to peak pandemic levels. Denver is still desirable. Still scenic. Still active. But it is expensive relative to local wages. Insurance costs are climbing due to wildfire risk in some areas. Property taxes rising in certain counties. Rent sliding here feels like the city catching its breath. Not collapsing. Just exhaling. Number 3, Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta is interesting. Because it's not collapsing. It's adjusting. Massive apartment construction over the last few years. Midtown. Buckhead. Suburbs stretching outward. Rents that surged above 1,800 in some areas are now seeing mild declines or concessions. Atlanta lifestyle. Major airport. Growing film industry. Strong job base. Trade-off. Traffic is legendary. Sprawl is real. Insurance costs rising in certain pockets. Atlanta's rent cooling is supply-driven. Not collapse-driven. Important distinction. If you live there, are you seeing price cuts or just incentives? Let me know. Number 2, Tampa, Florida. Florida was the migration magnet. Tampa rents jumped aggressively from the 1,200 range into 1,900 and above in hot neighborhoods. It felt unstoppable. Then insurance premiums exploded. Property taxes adjusted upward. Cost of living crept up. Some renters doubled up. Some left. New units hit the market. Rent growth stalled. In some areas it reversed slightly. Lifestyle. Beaches. Warm winters. No state income tax. Downside. Hurricane risk. Insurance chaos. Infrastructure strain. Tampa rent softening feels like gravity returning after hype. And gravity always wins eventually. Number 1, San Francisco, California. And yes, we have to talk about it. San Francisco. The city that broke the rent chart during the 2010s. Small one-bedrooms pushing well over 3,000 at peak. Then the pandemic hit. Population dipped. Remote work exploded. Tech layoffs added pressure later on. Rents dropped dramatically during the pandemic. Recovered partially. Now in 2026, certain neighborhoods are soft again compared to earlier highs. Concessions exist. Lifestyle. World-class scenery. Tech ecosystem. Culture layered on culture. Downside. High cost of everything. Complex tax environment. Visible social challenges. San Francisco's rent story is a tug of war. Desirability versus affordability. And that tension is still unresolved. Nationally, rent growth has slowed compared to the chaos of 2021 and 2022. New apartment supply is peaking around 2025 and 2026 because projects started years ago are now finishing. When supply peaks and demand cools, pricing power shifts. That's not ideology. It's math. This does not mean cheap living everywhere. It means leverage is returning to renters in specific markets. For years, renters had none. Now in certain cities they have options again. That's a big psychological shift. Even if prices are still higher than 2019. So what's the takeaway? If you're renting in one of these cities, you might have more negotiating power than you think. Ask about concessions. Compare listings. Do not assume the first price is sacred. If you're an investor, maybe don't assume rent always rises in a straight line. Markets overshoot. They correct. Timing matters. If you're thinking about moving, this might be a window. But only if the job market aligns. Because here's the catch. Rent usually cools when something else cools too. Job growth. Migration. Speculative hype. Cheaper does not automatically mean better. It means different. And different comes with trade-offs. So no. Rent is not collapsing everywhere. America did not suddenly become affordable. But in pockets of the country, the fever broke. And that alone is a massive shift from the narrative we were fed for years. The real question is this. Is this just a temporary pause before the next surge? Or are we entering a slower, more rational housing cycle where landlords actually have to compete again? What are you seeing where you live? Is rent dropping? Or is your landlord still acting like it's 2022? Drop your city in the comments. And if you want more brutally honest housing breakdowns without the corporate fluff, stick around. Because one thing is guaranteed: the housing market never stays calm for long. And when it moves again, it will not ask permission.